We are very glad to have you in the Strengthening Semiconductor and ICT Supply Chains between Mexico and the United States event, with the purpose of having potential foreign investors hearing about what Mexico has to offer industry in the academic arena, and also the government and success cases. This forum is organized by the Ministry of Economy via the Undersecretary of Foreign Trade, with the academia, with the Mexican government and other entities. And the purpose is to open high economic, high level economic level in order to strengthen supply chains. Now the members of the Presidium will welcome you. We have the Secretary of Economy. Good morning. I am very happy to be here today. Thank you. Thank you. I am very happy, Giorgio. Thank you for being with us. Monica, thank you very much. And Kamendi, thank you very much for your support in working in modernization and everything that has to do with the so-called ICT. So today I believe that it is very important to make progress in this area. And I also wish to acknowledge the work made with the academia, with the industry, and above all, with the different stakeholders across the government, because I believe that the semiconductor arena led us to understand its true relevance, because we used to think that it was only something truly technical, but then everybody started to talk about semiconductors after the crisis of the shortage of these semiconductors as a result of COVID. And we know that pretty much all the devices that we use have semiconductors of different dimensions and different sorts, or aimed at a single purpose. But today we are here talking about how to strengthen the supply chain and, of course, the alliances, which I believe is key. I want to start by saying that for some time back, we have been working with the Ministry of the Treasury. Giorgio has been one of our allies. He has been our ally, as I said, as Undersecretary of Finance, because he has been supporting us in allowing us to see how to compete worldwide with incentives of different sorts that usually end up by distorting the markets. Nevertheless, on the short term, make pretty much everybody nervous, because everybody wonders what's going to happen if I'm left out. So I believe that the work of Monica Duque and her team, in order to be a liaison, in order to allow us to work in the supply chain with more suppliers at a local level, and in order to attract investors to Mexico, not only because of being close from the largest purchasing companies, but also because this is a priority in the high-level economic dialogue with the United States. I also mentioned that last Friday I met with Gina Raimondo, Secretary Gina Raimondo, and we were talking about how relevant it is to deliver deliverables from both ends, or from both countries, in the topic of semiconductors. We have been working for the past months, and in September we will have another meeting, and hopefully we are making progress. We know that the location of Mexico, of course, is privileged. We are close to one of the largest markets, and also we have the 40 treaties that we have across the world that allow us to reach more than 50 countries. In particular, we have the possibility via the free trade agreement in order to be closer to Canada with the CUSMA, and with the United States with the USMCA, and also South America. the semiconductor chain has great potential and is strategic, as I already mentioned, and part of the effort that we are making across the Secretary of the Economy and our allies is to have a coordination mechanism so that these supply chains come true. The aim is to make these liaisons across companies and the SMEs possible, and also to strengthen that relationship. We have this necessary work with the International Development Bank and other financial institutions, which are now ready to support SMEs whenever they are ready to be suppliers of larger companies. They are ready to help them out with financing. And we have been working with the Secretary of Finance and some other allies in order to make progress. I also want to say that Mexico is the eighth manufacturer of electronics and sixth exporters of automobiles, giving rise to great demand of semiconductors. I see my friend of AMIA, and we will probably get together because we have been working together, and the CHIP Act has passed in the US, and of course, electric cars are now a victory that we were able to achieve. And I wish to thank all those who put their effort into this. We were knocking on doors in the US, and we were also knocking on doors of legislators and with secretaries across different states where we have the car industry, in order to let them know and stress the relevance of North America. I'm not only talking about cars assembled in the US. Therefore, when we work together, when we are able to join efforts in favor of the region, we can achieve better results. And an example of this is what just happened. But above all, we have great opportunities, and we have to close the gap on the supply of pieces. Also, the aerospace industry is found in Sonora, Baja California, Chihuahua, Nuevo León, Querétaro, and Mexico has an ecosystem for the semiconductor supply chain. And I want to say this because we often wonder if there's going to be enough market in order to move products, but I am sure that the market is there. But what we have to do is to work very specifically in order to achieve better results. We also have a wonderful ecosystem with respect to human capital training centers, with research centers such as the National Institute of Astrophysics, Optics, and Electronics, as INAOE of the National Council of Science and Technology, with great prestige across the industry, and with its developing activities for pre-competitive research activities and providing services to key companies across the industry. Mexico is key player in the geographical approach of the global value chains. And well, with this act, we are now gaining an advantage again if we are ready to embrace the opportunity. Investment will give rise to many, many jobs. And of course, something that is very, very important is that these job opportunities, since we have the labor force that is being trained very early in life, therefore we will be able to have jobs not only in the assembly line, but also with a better scope. And therefore, we have a possibility to work not only with the United States, but also with companies and with the academia in order to close the gap and in order to achieve better results. So thank you very much. Thank you and congratulations for everything you have achieved. And I wish to thank you for the effort of Monica and her team, and we will be doing our job in favor of Mexico. Thank you. Now we have Undersecretary of Finance, Gabriel Llorio González. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. And first of all, I want to greet all of you on behalf of the Secretary of Finance, who I represent, but also I want to acknowledge the hard work and the leadership of the Secretary of Economy, not only in the terms of industrial policy and these actions in order to attract more investment to Mexico, but also for the cohesion of all the stakeholders that have a role to play in this effort. It's not only one secretary, but different secretaries, governments, chambers, and entrepreneurial efforts. Therefore, I want to thank you all for this cohesion. Thank you, Madam Secretary, and thank you for your leadership. So, I want to share with you what's our contribution in to the effort that the Secretary of Economy is doing, and what is our contribution from the Secretary of Finance. And at the Secretary, we believe that an industrial policy like the one that is being designed from the Secretary of the Economy, and also these efforts to attract investment with a greater resilience for the North American bloc, is going to have an impact across the region and globally. Therefore, in the framework of the high-level economic dialogue, I believe that we will be able to open the dialogue further. And from the Secretary of Finance, from the Secretary of Finance, I want to say that we are trying to make our contribution to this effort, and we are implementing some projects, but we are yet to implement some others. And I want to talk about the semiconductor industry, but also some others that I want to put on the radar because they make sense with respect to the effort made from the Mexican government and the Secretary of the Economy. And along the border, we have fiscal incentives applicable to the municipalities along the border. And I want to say that this has contributed to the relocation of companies that is taking place in those areas. Yeah, it's better. So in these industrial hubs that have grown across Mexico, and which have meant all these efforts from the Mexican government for the economic development. And the northern region has a dynamism and has this calling that has to do with the industry, with the manufacturing industry. And we are observing that the trend of relocation of companies is taking place across the Mexican northern area, like in Tijuana, Ciudad Juarez, and many of you perhaps are already seeing the demand of leasing industrial facilities, and all of these is a trend that is reflecting in an area that very organically is being the candidate in order to attract some of these industries. And we're also seeing this across the central region with electronic appliances and devices, and we are therefore attracting foreign investment into this area in order to use this relocation trend. And Mexico, however, has great challenges ahead. And I wish to open a parenthesis here because we are working in the Southeast, and the relevance of that area is not only the Isthmus corridor, but it's also the remaining of the southern portion of Mexico that has to experience foreign trade and facilitation in the trade area. And we are also working from the Secretary of Finance in order to prepare a package of incentives that is not going to be necessarily similar to that on the north. We are preparing something tailor-made for the south, and we want to supply companies that wish to be across these 10 poles of investment across the corridor. to have all these incentives in order to give rise to greater ROI and opportunities of growth. And what's going to be the calling of this new industry hub in the Southeast? Well, perhaps it's going to be, and according to the Inter-American Bank and to the Secretary of Economy, of course, it's going to have to do with the agricultural sector, but perhaps logistics as well. And therefore, we believe that this area is going to play a key role, perhaps not today, but in the future. And today, we want you to keep that in mind whenever thinking about investment. What I wanted to share with you is the strategies that we are implementing for investment and all of these that we are doing, and it has to do with fiscal incentives and also financing, as I already said, for the companies. We are opening windows for the companies with Nacional Financiera, that is nothing, so that the SMEs and suppliers can connect with the companies that are going to be establishing in the area. And I want to say that Mexico and the Southeast have talent. There's a technology experts network, and we have one of the largest numbers of engineers across the OECD, and therefore we have an advantage as compared to other regions. And in order to work in this relocation, but also to try to build this trade and economic resilience with our partners in North America. And I truly want to thank you for the invitation. I wish you very productive couple of days. And Madam Secretary, we are at the Secretary of Finance available for you. Well, we thank the Secretary of Economy, Tatiana Cloutier. Thank you very much. We know that you have a very tight agenda, and we know that you have to leave, but still we want to thank you very much for being with us today. Now we wish to thank our Presidium this morning. Cesar Remis, head of the Office for the Implementation of the USMCA, and Enrique Jamuni, President of the National Chamber of the Electronic Industry of Telecommunications and Technologies. Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for the invitation to this panel. And undoubtedly, Mexico is located in a historic area, and we have the greatest opportunity of progress across Mexico, thanks to the global conditions, economic and commercial, of course, and thanks to the capacities of the country. And in order to get the most out of it, of course, we need investment, but I believe that we are on the right position and on the right track. In a global world, Mexico, the US, and Canada make up the most attractive market worldwide with respect to economic power. And we have the largest diversity, and if we are smart enough, we can be the market with the greatest growth across the world. And also, if we take the background of our relationship, well, even more. We have a free trade agreement, we know that, and we have to take advantages on these great opportunities and therefore be stronger individually, but jointly as well. We have another great advantage. We don't have great cultural differences and, of course, time zones, and that are also very useful at the time of working together. And we have a well-integrated production chain and also a supply chain that is also very well integrated. Therefore, we can grow our supply chains further. Likewise, Mexico has a very strong chain of universities, both private and public, that is rather unique. And as Mr. Undersecretary said, we can produce more engineers, and we have very clear examples of the reconversion of our education in order to train more engineers, to focus more on sciences and math. And we have states that are working extensively on that, like Baja California, Nuevo León, Yucatan, and some others, encouraging scientific education. Not long ago, I said that we had a shortage of engineers, and then I thought that, well, we have many engineers, but also attorneys at law and some other professionals. Of course, we need some other professionals. However, we have to encourage these science and engineering and math focus. Expert companies and are very well organized with the CANIETI and some other chambers of chambers of commerce. And also, I have been meeting with some cybersecurity professionals, because we know that that's going to be something that is gaining relevance. Mexico has great opportunity and the capacity to generate clean, sustainable industries in amounts necessary. It is only a matter for putting our mindset and creating necessary conditions for that. And in general, we have the necessary water to supply population and the industry if we are smart enough, and if we treat water as we have to do it, and if we take care of it as we should do. And of course, we still have a lot to do, and not only Mexico, but many other countries. And I believe that the time is right now to start working more seriously and in a smarter way, as we saw in Monterrey. There were all these challenges with water, and therefore this is also a calling for all the different sectors. And there are some other initiatives talking about free water. However, I believe that that's not true, because there's a lot behind the piping and the supply and everything that is necessary for water supply. As we can tell, we are the best option for the nearshoring as well, with the US and Canada, who are our partners, and we are very competitive in telecommunications, because we have a lot, but still have a long way to go. We still have need for great investments in that area. But I believe that 80% of Mexicans have pretty good telecommunication offerings at hand, and we have a pretty good system. Now, members of CANITEC, we have the largest players of electronics and telecom and IT, of course, and we have a large amount of SMEs working to make Mexico a better place. Mr. Undersecretary, I think that we have to work a lot in fighting informality. We have to work in order to drop the level of informal jobs. And I believe that something that we need to do is to really convey the advantages of the formal economy, to have financing from the financial sector, both private and public, and do not depend upon pawn shops or family members at very high interest rates. That oftentimes is the only opportunity, since they are in the informal economy, also with better social security, education systems, if we truly are able to convey these and not only thinking about taxes, well, when being in the formal economy, we'll be far more successful.
Well, I was looking for ways to participate with our affiliated and to participate in the country's progress and development. Thank you so much. Now, John Neuffer, President of the Semiconductor Industry Association, SIA. You have the floor, sir.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I could not join this impressive event in person. I'd like to thank the Ministry of Economy for envisioning this unique platform and inviting the Semiconductor Industry Association to share our views with you. So I'm John Neuffer, President and CEO of SIA based in Washington, D.C. We are the voice of the semiconductor industry, one of America's top export industries and a key driver of America's economic strength, national security, and global competitiveness. The U.S. semiconductor industry directly employs over 250,000 workers in the United States, with sales totaling $258 billion in 2021. SIA represents 99% of the U.S. semiconductor industry and nearly 3/4 of non-U.S. chip firms. It's an exciting time with President Biden signing into law a very significant public investment into our industry, a big step made to maintain our competitiveness in a critical foundational industry and the entire supply chain security and ensure supply chain security for the future. As we grow this endeavor, we look forward to collaborating with our partners to build a stronger supply chain that can withstand future shocks, such as the one generated by the global pandemic. Just a few weeks ago, we had a great opportunity to visit some of this country's state governors to learn about Mexico's policy ecosystem and to discuss strengthening your role in the global semiconductor value chain. I'll say these meetings were encouraging. We saw lots of enthusiasm, commitment, and potential as Mexico looks to contribute more to the global semiconductor supply chain. While the United States is rightly focused on building up supply chains here at home, we also know we cannot do everything alone and need to rely on friends and partners in this effort, such as Mexico. As we focus on rebalancing the supply chain, Mexico has a tremendous opportunity. We welcome the pioneering vision of the government of Mexico to seize this window and develop a sustainable semiconductor ecosystem here, especially in the semiconductors, materials, assembly, test, and packaging segments. The further development of local and federal infrastructure is, of course, a necessary step to establishing a welcoming environment and setting the path for Mexico to becoming an electronics manufacturing hub, especially as it pertains to semiconductors. We all have come to understand the semiconductor industry is both essential and global. The global chip shortage has reminded everyone that semiconductors are now part of most of the modern economy. In today's interconnected world, no company or even country can fully indigenize the entire highly complex semiconductor supply chain. The need for deep technical know-how has resulted in a highly specialized global value chain in which regions perform different roles according to their comparative advantages. All countries, including the US, are interdependent in this integrated global value chain, relying on free trade to move materials, components, equipment, and intellectual property around the world. A recent study by SIA and the Boston Consulting Group found, for example, that a goal of complete manufacturing self-sufficiency could cost more than $1 trillion over 10 years. Fully self-sufficient, localized supply chains would create substantial incremental costs and lead to a 35 to 65% increase in semiconductor prices. The cost is simply too high. It's appropriate for the United States and other countries to close key gaps and vulnerabilities in their supply chains. And we are doing that with the CHIPS Act, but we need partners. The way forward is to enhance the nation's position within and not separate from the global semiconductor value chain. Mexico has a tremendous opportunity in this regard. and we fully support this country's effort to upgrade its semiconductor ecosystem. Developing talent to work in our industry has long been a challenge for every country. We are excited by the work of CONALab for our industry. CONALab, the government initiative to train workforce on technical skills, is a worthy investment for the younger generations, but also for the continued growth of the broader high-tech industry. Already, trade between Mexico and the U.S. is significant. Since NAFTA and now USMCA came into force 28 years ago, bilateral trade has grown nearly sevenfold, with an average 7% annual average growth rate. To state the obvious, Mexico is one of America's most important trading partners. More specifically, Mexico is a critical hub in the broader electronics value chain. Mexico's share of global exports of the electronics trade is 4.5%, and it's home to vibrant markets that encompass nearly 25 billion in consumer electronics a year. Mexico's strong domestic electronics manufacturing sector produces laptops, PCs, and other key products that have semiconductors in them. And then there's autos. Mexico accounts for 16% of autos going to the US, and every car is now bristling with chips. When it comes to semiconductors, Mexico has a small but growing chip sector. Today, Mexico represents 4.5% of semiconductor trade. Mexico has unique assets, a skilled workforce, competitive labor costs, and geographical proximity to the United States. SIA would like to help build on those assets to further Mexico's goals, creating a robust semiconductor manufacturing sector. For example, we are excited by the rapid development of the rail system in Puebla and support for solar and renewable energy in Sonora, which will help to strengthen an ecosystem that serves customers and suppliers involved in semiconductor manufacturing. We welcome Mexico's goals of becoming both a more powerful digital economy and a hub of electronics and semiconductor innovation within the global value chain. Our goals within our own country are to invest further in developing manufacturing, design, and research capabilities in semiconductors, and to help our allies and partners also increase their capabilities. We look forward to collaborating more with Mexico to promote a healthy global semiconductor value chain that embraces open competition, the protection of IP, and free trade rules. And we look forward to Mexico's commitment to further economic development and the opportunities it would bring to both U.S. and Mexican firms. Platforms such as this, Mexico's first government semiconductor conference, bring together under one umbrella all the key stakeholders, and it helps pave a road to a brighter future for the semiconductor ecosystem in Mexico. We very much look forward to supporting the next phase in Mexico's semiconductor journey. It's been an honor and a pleasure to speak today. Thank you.
A continuación tendremos un pequeño receso antes de
Now
nuestro
let's have a short break before our next panel. Manufacturer investment ecosystem in Mexico, outlook and the potential for the semiconductor and the ICT industries at 10 a.m. Thank you so much.